So let me introduce, to my right is Chase.
Can you hear me?
Chase spoke at our Davos event.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Can you hear
and
me?
Chase was phenomenal. He was the hit. We had Dario, we had Jan LeCun, we had Demis, we had a lot of people, but everyone was talking about Chase. He's the co-founder and CEO of Crusoe, a vertical integrated AI infrastructure company, just named to Forbes AI 50 list of top private companies leading the AI market. That wasn't contractual, because we're part of the Forbes event here, so I want to make that very clear. MIT undergrad in math and physics before heading to Stanford for master's in computer science. He has climbed 5 of the 7 summits, including Mount Everest, and he might be at one of those summits right now. He can confirm or deny that. And I want to also introduce Nadav, Senior VP of Cloud Engineering at Crusoe, previous VP of Engineering and Core Machine Learning at Microsoft. No, I tricked you. Google, where he led the company's machine learning infrastructure strategy for 18 years?
Not machine learning for 18 years, other infrastructure too. Machine learning about 3, but yeah, I was at Google for 18 years.
Well, it's dog years, so 3 times 7 is 21. So 21 dog years. Yeah, so Crusoe knows how to hire key lieutenants in their vision. All right, let's hear from Chase. Chase, you had a family thing today. You had planned to be here. You are going to be at our Stanford event and our Davos event in future quarters, but you're here now. Is this you or is this an AI? Just if you could confirm or deny.
You'll never know. You'll
okay,
never
there
know.
You go. All right, so Chase, tell me about Crusoe. Where did the vision of Crusoe come from, and what do you mean by vertically integrated AI infrastructure?
Sure. So, I think, from my perspective, when I first started, learning about and playing around with a lot of AI, and we sort of had this boom in deep learning after, the release of AlexNet. A lot of the outcomes really felt magical, right? It felt like, humans had sort of like discovered a fundamentally new technology, and we had sort of sort of these superpowers that we weren't really imaginable or possible previously. And when I was thinking about what was driving that, it was really about the fact that we suddenly had sorry, let me take a step back. It wasn't a fundamentally new breakthrough in terms of the statistical methodologies that led to deep learning being possible. Multi-layer neural networks had existed for many decades. But what did make it possible was the fact that we suddenly had a lot more data just through the advent of the internet, and we suddenly had enough computing power, and we were able to parallelize that computing power through the use of GPUs to actually train these multi-layer neural networks with things like backpropagation to converge on solutions that were actually meaningful and useful. And I sort of saw this playing out, and I really felt like intelligence embedded in every aspect of the human experience was going to be a fundamental improvement for everyone and everything.
Here, let me interrupt because I got a lot of questions for you. Where are we in the race for AI infrastructure? How do you respond to critics or concerns of an AI overbuild? And do you have a customer yet? And maybe expand why you're particularly interesting these days, and why you almost got the Secretary of Energy to be on this panel, but that didn't work out. Go.
Sure. So, AI infrastructure at scale really leads to this convergence of energy and computing. The computing infrastructure to run AI at a really meaningful scale just requires tremendous amounts of energy. That's really sort of what led to the birth of Crusoe, was taking this energy-first approach to building large-scale computing infrastructure, and why the Secretary of Energy is so interested now in AI is that energy is one of the key bottlenecks and the key requirements to making AI happen at scale. We do have a customer. We do have many customers, both large and small. I think, I'm not sure if you're referring to our Abilene facility in terms of where we have a customer. We do have a customer there, and it's been widely written about in the news. But I'm
maybe
not,
in a sentence, what's the scale of it? Like, I don't know.
Sure.
Because-
So what
'cause
we announced is,
I bet no one in this room has a project at that scale.
yeah, I think it's important to put scale into context, because sometimes if I just start standing up here and citing really really big numbers, they seem sort of meaningless. But if you look at the data center landscape as it exists today, Northern Virginia is sort of the hub. It's really the center of the world for data centers, the center of the world for the internet. All of that capacity that we've built in the history of computing and the history of data centers is 4.5 gigawatts. Okay. What we're building in Abilene, what we announced is that it's going to consume 1.2 gigawatts of power capacity, and it's going to be just shy of a gigawatt of total IT capacity. So you're talking about one company in one facility building something that's call it 20-25% of the size of all of Northern Virginia as it exists today. So it is quite meaningful, and we have other plans to expand well beyond that, but it just gives you a sense of how much energy and computing infrastructure is required
Great.
for
So a comment
for
and then a
AI.
question. William Barton Rogers, who founded MIT, taught at UVA, went to William and Mary, and he created MIT because he wanted to respond to the Industrial Revolution. So he has a Virginia connection. So there you go. All right. How does energy fit into the equation? Can we meet the urgent needs of AI with clean energy? If you are optimistic, what do you look at that gives you hope? If you're pessimistic, why do you think this is a doom? What do you call it? Doom loop or doom? What? Yeah.
How do I answer that question? So I'm always an optimist, and I think Crusoe's philosophy in all this is that we've taken an energy first approach, which means actually bringing the demand for computing to areas that we can access low cost, clean, abundant energy. Energy. We can effectively produce clean energy at scale in a cost-effective basis, but we can't do it everywhere because of transmission, distribution. Just naturally, it doesn't always, the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow in the areas where we actually need to use energy. So our philosophy is, build data centers in areas where the wind is blowing and where the sun is shining, and where you can access low-cost, clean geothermal energy, like markets like Iceland, where we've built, quite a bit as well. But West Texas is, the best market in the United States for wind and solar, and that's really what led us to building in Abilene, Texas, is that we could access low-cost, clean, and abundant wind and solar energy.
Great. I have two more questions for you, then I got one for your colleague here. Where are we in the AI hype cycle with business adoption? And a lot of people talk about AI as a job killer, but you talk about AI as a job creator. Can you explain that? So hype cycle and job killer.
Sure. I think it's always tough to tell where you're at in a hype cycle, when you're in the middle of it, because all of these new breakthroughs, can be pretty mind blowing, and it just feels like the hype cycle will continue as we continue to produce incredible results. So to me, I just feel like we're very very early on in the adoption curve. People are just seeing the benefits of AI and learning how to utilize AI to drive productivity gains within their businesses. We're seeing a lot of piloting going on and a bit more sort of scaling of individual workloads. So, to me, we're early innings. Is it going to be a straight up and to the right journey? Probably not. It's going to be probably a bumpy road, and there's going to be drawdowns. But ultimately, directionally, AI is going to be more important and more widely used in the future than it is today.
All right. Before I ask you my last question, what do you say about AI as a job creator? Can you weigh in on that?
Yeah. So I think it was talked about. I think the previous panel or the one before about how AI is a disruptor. So things will change, but I think by and large AI is a creator of value, and because it creates value, it will create value for everybody. Jobs might change, but people will be so much more productive. That there's just no other way, just because of the power of this technology, to make people so much more productive. I think the wealth that it'll create will totally be a positive across the board.
Okay. Chase, you talk about moving past having to pay a green premium for sustainable products. What do you mean by that, and why is that relevant to our community today?
Sure. So, I mean, really what we're focused on trying to deliver is what I call a negative green premium for computing, which means that we can deliver computing infrastructure that is powered both cleaner and cheaper than existing infrastructure in large markets like Northern Virginia. The way we affect that is that for the first time in history, we're actually seeing clean energy solutions being the cheaper ways to produce energy. Now, again, it's not in all cases and in all places, but we're able to, deliver clean computing infrastructure by co-locating that infrastructure in areas where we can access that clean and low-cost energy.
Great. So, Nadav, there's a lot of talk about the latest AI models and the race towards AGI, but you still see value in some of the older models. Tell us about that. What technologies are still needed to advance for broad AI proliferation, and what types of applications are businesses running on your platform? So that's sort of part two of that. And then finally, I'm going to come back to you. I'll foreshadow this. Chase, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs? My business partner, Dave, references you all the time, saying you are awesome. Just curious, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs looking to start an AI company? So we'll come back to you. But Nadav, let's see how you take those.
So first, Crusoe is a vertically integrated AI infrastructure company, and Chase talked a lot about kind of like the deep end of the vertical, going kind of like lower in the stack towards the energy, the physical, the buildings, the locations. We're also vertically integrated up the stack, and I think one of the places AI needs to expand today is it needs to be easier to use for the people that are the ultimate users, I would say, in the business community, because we talked about, this creation of wealth. It needs to come through people that, have businesses, successful businesses, being able to access technology. And we believe that the technology is too hard to access today for those people. And so that's when we talk about use cases and about the vertical integration, we're working towards like, okay, how is it not about the latest and greatest model, but it is about how you take this model and implement it in your business. I was talking to someone earlier today, and the analogy that came about is kind of like Amazon, the early days of the internet, right? Like they're a retail company. That's kind of like a very traditional business, maybe one of the first businesses ever. And they were a huge force in pushing the internet together because the technology was at a place where you could focus on retail, yet use the technology and benefit from it and make your business look different to the world. And so I think we're at that moment in AI, and we want to make AI accessible to those industries, and those industries really care about how it helps their bottom line and not necessarily about the bleeding edge of technology.
Yeah. All right. So Chase, are you on your sixth mountain? If you can let us know, and then any advice. What year were you to graduate from MIT?
I was class of 2007. Well, I was actually class of 2008. I graduated 2007. But I grew up in Colorado around the mountains, and always had this passion for mountaineering and wanted to climb the highest peak on each continent. So I've done five of the 7 summits. I have 2 remaining. I'm not sure I'll get to them anytime soon because I'm quite busy building Crusoe and accelerating the proliferation of AI. But
so a little known fact: Thomas Jefferson wanted the summer White House, or maybe even the White House, to be out in Colorado. It didn't work out, but I do wonder if that had happened, if your business would have been in Virginia, but maybe out there. All right, advice to our founders here.
Advice to entrepreneurs. Look, I think there's a couple pieces of advice I would say is that number one, no one gets there alone. Life is pretty amazing in terms of there's a lot of really talented and amazing people out there that are often really willing to help you, and you haven't met these people. Some of you have, some of them you haven't. And if you're really passionate and ambitious, and you can paint a very clear vision for what the future might look like, there are people out there that are going to help you, and some of them are going to benefit, and some of them are just going to do it out of the kindness of their heart. But there is an incredible dearth of people that are willing to help support you as you sort of invest in whatever crazy idea that you have.
Yeah. So you guys leaving you wanting more. Nadav is giving a lightning talk. Have you given it already?
No.
Okay. So if you want to hear him give his 7-minute lightning talk in the room right over there, and are you guys hiring freeze? Are you
No, we're
are
hiring.
you aggressively hiring?
We're hiring.
Yeah. That
More
was
of a
the joke.
hiring flood, John.
Yeah,
It's,
hiring flood.
you have
So who
a
would
lot
like
of
to work with
jobs.
one of these guys? All right. So
Yeah.
please, don't all come at once to Nadav. Maybe make a line. But if you're talented and you want to be part of a rocket ship, not literally, but be part of something that is going to have big implications and help contribute and maybe even steer. These are two people to talk to. And last question: you worked at Google for a long time.
Yep.
What's it like going from a bureaucracy to this shop?
I'm not sure we have the time to talk about it, but it's not about the bureaucracy. It's about.
I love Notebook LM, by the way.
I love that you love it. It's not so much about the bureaucracy. It's about the necessity to focus on smaller problems. I think big companies solve big problems, and big problems take a long time to solve. Smaller companies solve smaller problems faster, and then grow from that. So that's my TLDR of the difference in size. I started Google when it was not huge, so.
Catch him.